The lights were soft, the laughter polite, and the air inside the studio carried that unmistakable buzz of British television, a mix of charm, wit, and curiosity that Jonathan Ross had perfected over decades of interviews. But on this particular night, something was different, because when Meghan Markle walked onto that stage, radiant and composed, what began as a friendly reunion soon spiraled into one of the most uncomfortable and talked about interviews of her career. This wasn't a meltdown, it wasn't a scandal, it was something subtler, a slow unraveling, where charm met defiance, and the mask of civility cracked just enough for the cameras to catch. Welcome a broken bar to the night Meghan Markle clashed with Jonathan Ross live on British television. Music builds, slightly a low-tension strings. The set glowed under golden studio lights. Jonathan sat comfortably in his signature chair, cue cards in hand, his familiar grin radiating warmth. Across from him, Meghan Markle settled into her seat, poised and perfectly put together. The audience's applause faded as Jonathan leaned forward with that unmistakable showman's rhythm. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "please welcome back to the UK the Duchess herself, Meghan Markle." The audience erupted. Meghan smiled, that polished Hollywood smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Thank you, Jonathan," she replied smoothly. "It's nice to be back for a little while." "Temporary royalty," Jonathan quipped, earning a laugh from the crowd. "So what brings you back to our humble island this time?" "Tea, scones, maybe a little chaos." The laughter continued, but Meghan's chuckle was hollow, controlled. "Actually, I'm here for an award ceremony next week," she said. "A recognition event." "Really? Then it's back to California where the sun shines, and people smile a bit more genuinely." The audience chuckled again, but this time there was a faint edge in the air. Jonathan's brow lifted slightly. "Ouch. Careful now, we still have tea and manners here." "Oh, I love tea," Meghan replied. "Manners, thought with a broken bar. I think California's catching up." The laughter was polite, but Jonathan could feel the undertone. A spark. He smiled through it the way only a veteran host could. "Well, we're glad to have you," he said. "You've certainly made headlines since you left. How's life in America treating you?" Meghan's tone shifted slightly, calm, but deliberate. "It's blissful, free. I'd say 10 times better than the chaos I left behind. No curtsies required, no tabloids outside my yoga class. Just a broken bar, real life." A murmur rippled through the audience, amused, but uncertain. Jonathan nodded politely. "That sounds quite peaceful. I suppose you don't miss much about royal life, then?" Her smile faltered. "I miss some people, some moments, but not the structure." Jonathan repeated the word with a smirk. "Structure, that's a polite word for monarchy." "I'm being polite because we're on live television," Meghan said smoothly. The audience roared with laughter, but Jonathan could sense it now. Her answers had a sharpness that cut through the humor. He shuffled his cue cards and pressed on. "You mentioned people you miss. Would that include the Prince and Princess of Wales?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Meghan's smile didn't move, but her eyes did. "Jonathan," she said quietly, "I think we both know that question isn't as innocent as it sounds." He chuckled, raising his hands in mock surrender. "Just curiosity. Everyone wonders if there's been any tea shared between Windsor and Montecito lately." She laughed a short, humorless sound. "No, no tea. Just boundaries." Jonathan grinned. Emotional distance the new royal protocol." Even Meghan smiled at that one, but her gaze stayed cool. "Something like that." He decided to push just a little further. "And Harry, how's he adjusting? Rumors swirl constantly about the two of you being under pressure, especially with the media in America." Meghan's expression didn't shift. "Rumors," she said firmly. "I stopped reading fiction years ago. Harry's wonderful. Our kids are thriving, and anyone suggesting otherwise probably needs a new hobby." The crowd laughed and clapped. Jonathan smiled, but it was the tight smile of someone trying to keep the peace in a room full of tension. "You do seem unbothered," he said. "I am," Meghan replied, leaning back slightly. "You learn to be when you stop letting other people write your story." Applause echoed again. But Jonathan wasn't done. "Still," he said, Many here in Britain feel you've distanced yourself from your roots. Meghan tilted her head, eyes glinting. When your roots are constantly being dug up by strangers, Jonathan, you learn to plant yourself somewhere else. The audience murmured. Jonathan forced a smile. Poetic. That sounds like a line from Suits. Meghan's smile tightened. I suppose everything I say sounds like a script to people who can't imagine I'm genuine. Jonathan opened his hands in mock innocence. Just an observation. Speaking of scripts, he added quickly, would you ever return to acting? She gave a small, dry laugh. I think I've done enough acting for one lifetime. Jonathan smirked. Ouch. Well, you've certainly lived a few scripts. Meghan met his eyes, tone cool. Haven't we all? A pause. The room went still for a moment too long. Jonathan shuffled his cards again, pretending to reset the energy. You've mentioned your life in the US is calmer. Do you ever see yourself spending more time here again? Not unless the weather and the tabloids improve, she said with a quick smile. Laughter again, but the tone had shifted. Jonathan chuckled softly. So no plans to settle near Windsor again? No, Meghan said, voice firm. I've already done my time here. America's home now. A warmer climate, warmer people. The audience reacted with mixed laughter and murmurs. Jonathan grinned thinly, though I think the audience might disagree about the warmth part. Oh, Jonathan, she said sweetly, disagreement is just Britain's love language. The crowd laughed, but Jonathan's grin faltered. The exchange had started as charme, now it was verbal chess. He glanced at the clock. Before we go to break, he said, I must say, you do have a way with words, Meghan. Every answer feels like it could end up as a headline. Meghan looked straight into the camera. That's not my fault, Jonathan, that's yours. A collective gasp. Jonathan froze, then laughed awkwardly. Touch a tilde copyright, Duchess. The red light above the camera blinked. The show cut to commercial. Music dips as the tone darkens slightly. For a moment, neither spoke. Meghan adjusted her mic. Jonathan stared at his cue cards. Behind their polite faces, something unspoken simmered, a resentment, pride, maybe both. When the cameras came back on, the energy had shifted. The air was heavier. The laughter was gone. Jonathan smiled, professional as ever. Welcome back. We're here with Meghan Markle, actress, activist, mother, Duchess, a broken bar, and clearly someone who isn't afraid to speak her mind. The audience chuckled politely. Meghan crossed her legs, calm and composed. I think the world's afraid of women who do, Jonathan, but I've stopped apologizing for it. Fair enough, he said. Though sometimes honesty and diplomacy have a complicated relationship. Only when people mistake politeness for truth, she said coolly. I'm not here to sugarcoat things. Jonathan leaned forward. Then let's get to something honest. You've said life in California is peaceful. But be real with me, do you ever miss any part of royal life? The events, the spotlight, the tradition? Her tone sharpened. Jonathan, I didn't lose the spotlight. I just changed the stage. There's a difference. He smiled faintly. You still enjoyed the view from the stage, then? Who wouldn't? She replied instantly. Especially when you've worked hard to own it. I didn't inherit my voice, I built it. The crowd clapped again, though a few people exchanged glances. Jonathan's humor thinned. And yet, you can't deny your name still carries a royal ring. Whether you like it or not, it's part of your identity. Meghan tilted her head. That's what people like to believe, that identity is something given, not chosen. I left that world behind for a reason. Still, he said, smiling tightly, the irony is that the world keeps bringing it up. I can't control other people's obsessions, she replied, almost smugly. Jonathan leaned forward. You do realize you're in Britain right now, right? Royal gossip is kind of our national pastime. Meghan smiled coldly. And I'm sure that keeps your tabloids busy. But I'm not here to give them new material. Oh, I think you already have, Jonathan said under his breath, earning a nervous laugh from the audience. Meghan's voice hardened. I think your viewers are more intelligent than you give them credit for, Jonathan. They don't need royal drama to stay entertained. He nodded. You're probably right. But we do love a good story. Well, she said with a smirk. You'll have to settle for authenticity instead. Jonathan set his cards down. Speaking of authenticity, you've said before you want to redefine what it means to be royal. What does that actually mean? It means being free from control, she said firmly. Doing good without permission, not needing centuries of tradition to justify compassion. Beautifully said, Jonathan replied. But if I may ask, some people think you've replaced one kind of performance with another. Her expression turned icy. What's that supposed to mean? He smiled calmly. You've done documentaries, podcasts, interviews, all talking about privacy while staying center stage. Some people find that a broken bar contradictory. Meghan leaned in, voice low and sharp, and some people mistake boundaries for hypocrisy. It's called protecting my peace, Jonathan. He nodded, still smiling. Protecting peace while making documentaries. Quite the balance. The audience laughed nervously. Meghan didn't. I suppose it's easy to mock what you don't understand, she said, her tone calm but cutting. Jonathan's smile finally faded. Oh, I understand perfectly, he said softly. I just think you've confused confidence with condescension. The room went silent. Excuse me? She said, stunned. You've spent the last half hour dismissing every question with a smirk. Jonathan continued. I've hosted this show for years, Meghan, and I've never seen anyone work this hard to sound above the conversation. The crowd gasped. I'm not above the conversation, she shot back. I'm just tired of being treated like a headline. Then stop talking like one, Jonathan said. You say you want understanding, but everything you say sounds rehearsed, defensive, royal, if you'll forgive the word. Her tone turned glacial. Maybe I sound that way because I've learned what happens when people twist your words. Or maybe, Jonathan said slowly, you've just learned how to dodge every question you don't like. And that was it. The breaking point. Meghan unclipped her mic. You know what, Jonathan? She said, her voice trembling with contained anger. This isn't a conversation. It's a trap dressed up as entertainment. Come on now, he said quickly, trying to recover. We're just talking. No, she snapped, standing up. You're talking. I'm done being polite for ratings. The audience shifted uneasily. Jonathan's charm slipped. Polite? Meghan, this show gave you a platform, and you've spent the whole evening acting like you're still the Duchess of Montecito. She straightened, eyes flashing. I'll take that as a compliment. You're not a duchess here, Jonathan said finally, his patience cracking. You're just another celebrity with a grudge. The studio froze. Meghan's face hardened. Then, without a word, she turned and walked off stage. The audience sat in stunned silence. Jonathan exhaled, running a hand through his hair. Well, he said dryly, forcing a laugh. At least she didn't ask for tea. The crowd laughed nervously, unsure whether to clap. The red light went out. Music fades into silence. Backstage, Meghan paced, fuming. Jonathan sat at his desk, drinking water, his trademark grin gone. The producers whispered in his earpiece, asking if they should cut to commercial. Jonathan shook his head. Let's finish it, he muttered. If she wants to walk, fine, but not before the world sees what this really is. Moments later, Meghan returned. The applause was polite but hollow. She sat down, composed, radiant, and ice-cold. Jonathan gave a small smile. Welcome back, Meghan. You didn't leave me for good, then? Not yet, she said, voice smooth. I believe in finishing what I start. He nodded. So do I. The red light blinked again. They live. Welcome back, Jonathan said to the camera. We're here with Meghan Markle, actress, advocate, and clearly someone who knows how to keep things interesting. She smiled faintly. I prefer honest to interesting. Then let's be honest, Jonathan said, his tone careful. Tonight's been a broken bar lively. Do you think moments like this are why people find it hard to understand you? Meghan turned her gaze to him. I think people find it hard to understand women who stop apologizing for being misunderstood. The audience clapped lightly, sensing the end approaching. Jonathan smiled, this time genuinely tired. Well, Meghan, whether people understand you or not, they're certainly watching. I've noticed, she said coolly. That's usually the case when you stop playing the part they wrote for you. The show's closing music began to swell. Jonathan looked at her one last time. Any final words for the British audience? She paused, her expression unreadable. Just this: say don't believe everything you read, especially when the story isn't written by the person living it. Jonathan smiled faintly. Fair enough. The cameras panned out. The applause was scattered, uncertain. Meghan's smile never wavered as the credits rolled. But for everyone watching in the studio and at home, one thing was clear. This wasn't just another interview. It was a collision between poise and pride, truth and image, control and chaos. The moment when civility broke under the weight of ego. And by the time the lights dimmed, one truth lingered in the silence. Sometimes, even charm can't survive a clash of worlds.